Hello, everybody. Glad that you could join us today. Let's start by just running through what we're going to walk through today from a practical perspective. So you should see on the screen the agenda for today. So we're going to have a look at how Microsoft, and for some of you, this might be a new feature of Dynamics 365 and understanding how the back end and how updates are actually done. So we wanted to run through very quickly how release cycles actually work, and in particular looking at this particular cycle or this particular wave. And we'll have a look at what that means for you in terms of the deliverability of different pieces of functionality during the year. We'll then dive into the sales side of things, and we'll start to look at some of the new components in this new wave. And I haven't picked everything. There's a raft of different things that are available in this new wave. I've just picked out some key highlights. So we'll start to go through some of those, and we'll look at, as part of this, looking at the documentation that goes with this particular wave. And you can start to look through that as well. We'll start to have a look at some Power Automate features that are new, customer service and our sales component in terms of the new email template. And then we'll look at some nice to have AI components, some artificial intelligence that Microsoft are now bringing out in Dynamics across Viva Sales, and also co-piloting, which is an exciting new preview component of Dynamics as well. So now that we've had a little look at that agenda, let's dive into the actual the slides that I've prepared. I'm going to be presenting some live components, but I wanted to walk through each of the different components on a slide, so you can take these away if needed. So for those who are unfamiliar with how Dynamics actually works from a release perspective, primarily there are 2 releases each year. So there is a wave 1 or a wave 2. So you can start to see some of the timings around that. So wave 1 obviously is in the first half of the year, and we get some early access and some preview to some of that earlier on in the year, but that primarily from what we call a general availability, or GA, starts to be rolled out, and I say starts to be rolled out from about April. So most of the documentation that you'll see looks at a release of Dynamics in April. That, in essence, that release runs all the way through to the end of October. So you'll start to see when I present some of these new features, some of them are available now, some of them are available later in that cycle. So you'll start to see some of when things are available, and we'll talk about how we know that in a little while. And then later in the year, you'll start to see that we'll get some early access and understanding of what's in wave 2 from about August, and that starts to roll out from October all the way through to the new wave of 2024 in about April next year. So that's a cyclical process. So there is always updates being done. But on the whole, new releases are started to roll out in April and October. But that does not mean that everything gets released in April, and we'll start to have a look at that as we go through. So one of the things that that we have as a resource from Microsoft now is the Dynamics 365 Release Planner. And what that actually allows us to do is to be able to see all of the new features and to be able to understand when they're coming, whether they're in preview, whether they're in general availability, and start to see some of the documentation around that. So if I flick over to this particular screen here, this is the release planner, and we can see that we're in the sales area. I can see the sales engagement, and I can see some of the new features that are available or are being planned at the moment. There are some that are available to try, some that are coming soon, and some that are planned. So these are the ones that we're looking at the moment for the rest of the wave, and you can start to see when they're actually coming into being. So you can see this one's for preview in June 2023, and we can start to see when that might be coming to availability into the product itself. The documentation's available there, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But this is a really great tool for you to be able to go on and look at what's actually come out. So these are some of the features that have come out in April and May for sales engagement, and we can start to then utilize those in the application as we want to. So please, if you've got the opportunity, take advantage of having a look at that particular component. Now, I just need to come back to my slide presentation, which seems to have kicked off a little bit. Excuse me. Just come back into there. And so we did talk about documentation. So each release, each wave has its own documentation. And you can see on the screen there the covers of the two that are in play at the moment. We'll talk about why there's two. They're in play at the moment for April through to October. So this is the release of Wave 1 for 2023, and it'll have everything at a high level that's coming out during those periods. You'll see two documents there. One is around Dynamics 365 and one is around Power Platform. The Power Platform one is more generic, so it talks about some of the features within the platform that is actually being released. And then the Dynamics 365 one actually talks to the specific units within the sales, within the customer service, within the marketing spaces. So you'll start to see more license-related features within those particular, the Dynamics 365. So great for you to have those links as well, and you'll be able to grab those at the end of this presentation. Okay, so let's continue on. Let's go into some of the new features. So really good to be able to show some of these. So some of the ways that we actually look at data within Dynamics 365 is changing. And the first one of those is around the pipeline views within opportunities. I will apologize for some of the screens that you'll see very shortly. You'll see that these ones over on the left-hand side are generally available now. Some of the ones that are future ones for August and September, I've only got some screenshots that Microsoft have provided, so they're not really high resolution, but I'll walk you through them as we go through. This one, in terms of opportunity pipelines, is available now, and I'll walk you through that, and we'll have a look at that in the application right now. So if I come back over to our site here, and if I come into the next tab along here, some of you will be familiar with these types of screens. So we are in the opportunity side within our sales area, and I've got a list of my opportunities here, and I've got all of my opportunities sitting in there, and I can see that they've got an estimated close date and a revenue sitting in there, which is really good for me to have, but I want to be able to see that in a different way. So Microsoft have introduced this show as component. I've got also editable grids available here, so I can see that as an editable grid and be able to edit that on the fly. But the more important one there is around our pipeline view. So we can now start to visualize the opportunities and the estimated revenue in a timeline. With sort of heat sink maps available for that. So we can start to see what each individual opportunity, when it's closing, and its size of the deal based on the estimated revenue as well. Really great screen as well. I get a list down the bottom here, and if I click on this down the bottom, I can actually open up that particular opportunity, and it actually opens up as a small pane on the side, which I can then open up the main form as well. So there's a lot of great features in here to be able to share and to see that information in a visual way, and to be able to utilize with our team, with our sales team, and to be able to look at those opportunities based on time frames. Okay, so that's the first one that we wanted to look at. The second one, in terms of the next slide, is around SMS Conversations. So I've put the Microsoft slide in here around this. This is now available. It is now available within the application, and it's very new. So one of the things that you can do here is, in the back end of sales, in the back end of marketing, you can set up an SMS provider. And there are SMS providers available, and you can set up custom channels as well. But we can now actually open up a contact record and SMS them directly from the contact record, which is really great. And we can set that up against the contact. Primarily, that's where you're going to have the mobile numbers, but you can also set them up against other records as well if you've got those contact details. So I'll just flick into the application and show you that. So if I come into a contact record over here, I'm just going to close that particular section down. I've got my contact here. If I just click on the text button, automatically it's now going to open up those messages. I can actually see existing messages that have been sent to that particular customer once they load in, and I can type those messages and they get receipt back of that information. So the conversation can happen within Dynamics 365 through SMS. Really great feature, and one that we're really excited about. It leans into the whole marketing side of things, but they're now bringing that into the sales component as well. Coming back into the presentation, just open that back up. One of the next ones is around, and Dynamics has a feature in its dashboard area that we actually call Sales Accelerator, and it's now being relabeled to Sales Engagement, and it enables sellers to actually utilize all of the data but see it in a different way. And we'll walk you through some of the next three components are around the Sales Accelerator component. And they really are geared towards providing sellers or your sales team with more information that they can track a little bit better. So this one's around intelligent suggestions for sellers. So you can see over on the side of that particular screen, and you can see this one's not in preview till June. So as we talked about before, some of these come into preview early, some of these come into preview during the cycle, but this is still slated to be delivered before the end of October into general availability. So you can see in there that we've got that My Worklist on the left-hand side of the screen that's available there, and we can start to see some of the suggestions that are actually happening for this. So there's an upsell that we'll talk about in a moment. There is an opportunity at risk. Why is the opportunity at risk? Because it's slipped its end date, because we haven't contacted them recently. So it starts to provide some intelligence around what you need to do and actions that you might need to take as a seller based on activities and dates that are driven in there as well. So a really great tool in there as well. The next one that sits in there, and I just alluded to that, was around the upsell component. So quite often when you're looking at a particular opportunity, you might say, right, well, we've got a whole bunch of products here. They're looking at this particular product. We can now do upsell component in here and cross-sell as well. So it might identify that they've purchased a particular product, and it's now saying, well, you've also linked that product to a bunch of other products, and there's a possibility of you being able to sell these products as well. So it starts to give you those prompts and to give you that information so you don't have to dive around and fumble around. So now all of that information is presented to you in a little bit better way from a seller perspective. The other component that is in that Sales Accelerator or that Sales Engagement component is around that focused work list. And I probably should have started with this one a little bit, but that work list is really key now. And I'll just dive into that so you can see that. It really gives you, I suppose, we used to work in dashboards of a list of activities that used to be presented. Now we're starting to see this focused work list come into being. So if I open up this particular component and I dive into a site here, I can go into the Sales Accelerator and I can see my work list. So I've got a deal meeting with this particular component. So one of the things that you won't see in here just at the moment is that upsell, cross-sell, and that intelligent advice component. That's still to come in preview. But what is out available is the My Work List, and be able to have that focus mode here. So I can see my work list, and I can see I've got an appointment, and I've got a meeting request to speak with Russell as well for this particular opportunity. So all of these are enabling people who are in there as sellers to be able to view things a little bit better and to be able to streamline their work and not have to dive around and find information. It's presented in a much more user-friendly way. Okay, let's come back into our presentation and look at the next component that's available. The next part that's available now and is around Teams chat within D365 Records. Over the last 6 months, in the last wave, there was some Teams integration, and some of you have already seen that in play, and maybe I've demonstrated that to you before. But now we're starting to see, just like we have got SMS available, we now can start to see the Teams chat available within the records as well. So you can see a little bit of a screenshot there, just in terms of an opportunity, which I'll dive into, and for us to be able to see that available in the application. So if I dive back in here and have a look at this particular opportunity, so I'm in an opportunity and I can see this. I've got this button up the top here, which is my Teams channel, Teams chat and channel integration. And I can now see the Teams chats that are presented. I've got other chats around other components. These are my Dynamics 365 chats, but connected to this particular opportunity, I have a specific chat. And once again, once I click on that, it pops open the dialog box that is the actual Teams chat itself. Excuse me. So I've sent a message on Friday, hi team, can we connect next week around this opportunity, please? And Lynn has kindly come back and said, yep, sure, let me know the dates. Now, once again, if I flick over into Teams, and a lot of us are working in Teams more and more, and now this just gives that really strengthened integration between that. So I can now see that I've got my chat, I've got my sales chat around this particular item, and I can open that up from here. All of that's now happening both in Teams and Dynamics 365. Really exciting thing for us to be able to have that Teams chat right at the record and related to the record, and we're working cohesively together in that collaboration sense. Okay, next on our list is around sequential approvals. This one is available, but I haven't got that demoed up right at the moment. But what this actually does, and if you've ever used Power Automate, Power Automate is now really the new way that we actually configure notifications and workflows within Dynamics 365. So when we start to plan out work with a customer, we will be looking at workflows, we will be looking at notifications, and ultimately we may be ending up looking at approval processes. So this might mean that a particular record or an opportunity before it moves to the next stage might require an approval to go through. Or there might be a value, say a discount on something that requires some sort of approval as well. This now then can go through what we call a sequential approval process. So on the screen here, you'll see the Microsoft approvals process, which we actually call on through the Power Automate flow component. And we actually say when this record actually happens, we'll instigate an approval process. We now have the ability to have a sequential component in there as well. So in this case, we want to give a 25% discount, and we then need to get each of those people in sequence to actually get that particular item approved. So a really great thing for larger organizations or organizations with managerial approval processes. You can now meet those needs through the sequential approval process as well. Coming back into our presentation again, the last one, or that was the last one in the sales component, just diving into some of the newer components around customer service, and also being able to use this in the sales as well. We can use this, but it's primarily based in the customer service world. We have always had in the marketing, in D365 marketing, and some of you have got D365 marketing implemented. Some of you are looking to implement D365 marketing. One of the great features of D365 marketing is being able to create HTML templates around emails. And that's always been great in marketing, but in Dynamics 365 sales and customer service, we had quite an older version of an email format component. And I'll show you that in a moment. We've now moved, or Microsoft have now moved the HTML email template component into sales and customer service. So as we look at the application in here, I'll just come into this particular component here, and I'll have a quick look. And I had this screen open. This is the a contact record in D365 Sales, and I've gone and created an email on their timeline, and we have the ability within there, if you didn't know that, to insert a template. And we've been able to insert these types of, I suppose, rich format text components, and we can build those as we go along in the background, each of these templates. But we've now got the ability for us to be able to insert and create rich HTML templates in there as well. And how we do that is we actually come into the service management component of that, into our email templates area, and we're now presented with the ability for us to have the editor here, which is really great because we can now personalize emails. We can have them in a rich HTML component with video, with personalization, with images, which we were limited on in the customer service and sales side before. All of that rich functionality that the marketing side has is now being brought into the sales. So if you're in the habit of sending emails from Dynamics 365, or if you haven't because of the limited functionality within that, you can now bring that into here as well. And you can also see on the screen there that we've also got the ability to put attachments with those email templates as well. So if you're, for example, you want to send out a bunch of emails to some people, rather than using the marketing side, I can pick 10 people or 10 contacts and send them that HTML email with an attachment attached. So all of that's on now nice and easy, nice and rich format within the sales and customer service area. Okay. Moving on to some of the, I suppose, some of the exciting components of the new new release. Microsoft are really getting into the AI component, and you've probably heard a lot of news around this. There's a lot of buzz around ChatGPT and the ability for us to use artificial intelligence to create verbiage, to create documents, to create a range of things. Dynamics is starting to implement that. So the version of this that Microsoft and Dynamics is using is what we call Copilot. You've probably seen some exposure to Viva Sales over the last little while and not known what it actually is. I'm going to show it to you in two different ways. And the two different ways is the older type of Viva Sales, which has been around for about 3 or 4 months now, and some of the tools that are available in there. And then also the new AI component, which is the Copilot component being brought into Viva Sales and Outlook. So let's open back up our screen here. You can see I'm in Outlook. So why am I in Outlook, Nigel? Why are we starting there? Why are we talking Dynamics here? Well, primarily this is an Outlook tool, but there does have some integration with Dynamics 365, which is really important for you to see. So you can see here I've got an email from Barry Green. Barry Green's emailed in, and he'd like to be able to discuss our services with the potential for a June sale. Is there somebody that I can talk to next week? So Barry's provided that information, and we've got his footer of his email. So those of you who are using Dynamics now have probably got Dynamics 365 plugged in, and that actually opens up, authenticates, and tells me that Barry is not a contact, and I can add that in. That's really good, and for those people that are using that, that's a really good tool as well. It's great for us to have that because it can be a launching pad to look at other components in there as well. But the other component of that is around Viva Sales. Now, as we said, Viva Sales in this sense actually sits in two areas: that artificial intelligence and being able to do some co-pilot components, as well as the dynamic side of things. And you can see that in here. We'll talk about the highlights side of section in this in a moment. But the first thing I want to look at is the Dynamics. So I can see that there is, this email is not saved in Dynamics, and Barry Green is not in Dynamics 365 just yet. And we want to be able to add him. So automatically what it has done from the email has actually grabbed all of the information that we need. So it's grabbed all of the information from the footer, from the email itself, and grabbed all of that information, and it will pre-populate that into D365. I don't have to enter anything there to create that contact. You didn't have to before, but it pretty much just grabbed the email address and the name of the particular person from the email descriptions. But now, all of that other information that might be embedded in the email, either in the footer or somewhere else, can be picked up, and we can set up what fields are being picked up here. These are just the standard ones, and I can start to create those and pick those out as I need to. So you might be able to see that Barry's got an address in the email footer, but I haven't got that in the actual form here. I could bring that into this particular form so that Viva Sales picks that up. So I can create Barry in Dynamics 365 just by saving that and moving forward. So the integration between Dynamics 365, picking out that Viva Sales, that intuition around what's in the email and being able to create that seamlessly in Dynamics 365 is one part of this. The other part is, I suppose, the co-pilot or the artificial intelligence component of this. So straight away in here, I might want to reply to Barry and to construct an email to reply to him. So in this case, I can pick a number of different options. So there's some options here for me. I can reply to an inquiry, offer a discount, make a proposal, address a concern. They're the standard ones there. So I'm going to choose the reply to an inquiry, and you can see straight away Microsoft Visa Sales is actually going away and grabbing some information, and just like ChatGPT, it's created an email for me. So it's picked up what's actually in the email and said, right, Barry, it's great to hear from you. Know that you want to discuss a June sale. I understand you'd like to talk more, and how about we have a call on Wednesday, which it's actually looked at my diary, and if I hit the pop-up that sits over the top of this, it actually will tell me that based on the information in my calendar, that's the best time for me to actually give Barry a call. So really great features there. I can actually copy that test, or I can actually try again if I don't like the wording of that. As all good AI generated components, it gives you a warning that you need to really review this before sending this. So once, give me another version now, and I can actually, yes, I want to take that, copy that, and that can be my reply. So some really good features coming in there, without having to construct an email. I can very easily reply to Barry based on the information that he's actually presented in the email. So Viva Sales, really good thing. Lots, if you have a look at that release planner, there is lots that's coming out in terms of Viva Sales, as well as that integration with Dynamics 365. That's one of the main features of this release, is that whole component. Okay, let's flick back into our presentation, and continuing on the theme of co-pilot and AI, This one's in preview in the US at the moment. We've actually had to set up a US tenant to be able to do this and to demonstrate this with you today. Excuse me. And this will generally become available in the latter half of the year. It says June. I would suspect that that will be later June or even later in July. So especially here in Australian region. So we'll get to see when this actually lands. But this is a great tool, just like the Viva Sales component, of being able to help you with writing text, with being able to format emails and to be able to construct what you're sending out from a marketing perspective. So you can see in the screenshot here, I'm in my in the marketing side of Dynamics 365. And if you haven't used the Dynamics 365 marketing and you really want to, please give us a call or please have a chat with us, because we are really knee deep in implementing that with a number of different customers throughout our customer base. And it's a really great thing to see people start to take up some of this newer technology and new features of Dynamics 365, which is mainly sitting in that marketing area as well. Right, okay, so let's dive into the application itself as well. So I'm just going to jump into this particular screen. If you're in Dynamics 365 and you're looking in the marketing side, if you've got access to that, you know, we've got all these emails that are available. And as we dive into those particular emails, this is an example one where we've got a webinar coming up for a home organization, and we wanted to create some extra text here. I've got it over on the side here now, and this is the new part that's in preview, yet to come into the general availability, is around Copilot within the email construction component. So in this panel, it's now just like when I'm looking at that email within Viva Sales, it's going to give me some examples, but it wants me to give some prompts as well. So what do you want to do? So I want to thank people for attending today. We'll keep you up to date with the latest features in Dynamics 365, and we want some subscriptions for further information. We can add key points that it'll generate, so we can start to give some flavors as to what we want that content to actually look like. So in Viva Sales, a moment ago, the text that was generated based on the content of the email from Barry Green. In this case, we're giving it some hints as to what the text we actually want it to look like. We want it to, and we can also give it the tone of voice as well, which is really great. So do we want it to sound casual? Do we want it to sound really formal? Do we want it to have some engaging feel around it? And once I hit the get ideas, just like in Viva Sales, this will then go away and create, analyze what we've actually got in there, analyze the email itself, and will start to present us, in this case, with a number of different options around what we want to put in that particular content. Really great features in there. I can add that to if I want to pick that particular one, I can add that to my draft and it will enter it into the text of there. So really giving you great tools to be able to very easily write content for emails and to construct those, so you're not having to sit around a table and to be able to construct and wordsmith a lot of different content. You can get Copilot within marketing to actually create that content. Once again, always great to review that content before you use it, just to make sure that it's appropriate for your use. Okay, so as I said, that one's coming up in towards the end of the latter half of this financial year and the beginning of the next financial year, June, July. Really great tools there. So let's come back into our presentation, and I think that was the last component of our slide. So I just want to thank you